Okay, Janpha Thadphoothon, and very good morning from Bangkok. How are you? I have a few things to actually talk to you guys. Okay. Good morning, Moss. You are here. So I would request you to, if possible, show your video. Okay. Uh, so, so I would like to start off now. If you are ready. So what we are doing really is going to go over everything uh, one more time, actually. And I have a few things to share with you, to address to you. So semiotics is a way to understand the world through science, through our interpretation of science. Okay? You have the earphone, it's okay if you do. Right. Okay. Uh, so why do we have to learn about the signs and how they make meaning? I mean, the first reason is that, I can think of at the moment is that reality is full of signs, and we make sense of the world around us because of the signs that are available. Okay, this is very important. Let me make a quick announcement to the class. You may join an online class if you cannot make it. Okay. So Pipat is with us now. So just a message to you. That's the first reason. The second reason is that science, in order to understand or to make any meaning at all, you need to interpret the signs that we can observe. And people, I would say, produce signs, and they actually use them for whatever purposes they may have. So these three reasons are, I think, why we it can explain why is it that we should study semiotics. Okay. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now, so we have been looking at the meaning of sign. What is the sign? A sign can be anything. It can be anything. It can be a word, like the word Janpha. It can be an image, like my image. It can be an object, a thing. It can even be your imagination. Your imagination. Uh, for example, the sound of a cock crowing. This nature is a sign of another day. Is a sign of a new day. F stands for fail, for example. The letter F. Here, the keyword here is that anything stands for something else. Hello, everybody. You can talk to each other. Now, if you have any question, by the way, you can send me the note. You can send me the note. Okay. Right. Can you see the note function? Now, let me go. Uh, let me see the note. Can you see the note function? Pause. Where is that? Now let me look for the the chat function. So I would like to say hi to you. Hi. How are you? Every who's Prang? Ma Prang, what are you doing? No, I mean the chat. I mean the Zoom chat, not the live chat. I think so. I request that you say something in the chat function of the Zoom. You see this? Okay. Fine. You mean fine? Who's that? Okay. I will send you the file on my computer. Let's see. Okay. Anyway, just to check on you. So there are two kinds of sign, man-made. Yeah, this you see the one. This is the man-made sign constructed by humans, like the language, for example. Okay. So we actually use and produce. I would like to say the word produce too. We produce signs, symbols, icons, and things like that. And there are also natural signs like the thunders, the sun, the moon. And we humans, I mean us, systematize those signs. And then we create the codes like the programming language, a language, many languages. We can say that a language is a system of code. Okay. That's just the introduction, why we have to study semiotics. And what's the point of semiotics? And what a sign is, I just told you that there are two kinds of signs. The natural signs and the human-made signs. Okay? And we, human beings, are capable of interpreting and producing signs. That's why we have the language. Any questions? Now, another topic that you should be looking at is the models of the sign. And you should remember two names, Ferdinand de Saussure. Jotika, can I request you to access the Zoom on your computer? Thank you very much. Because I have problem putting on the screen. Thank you very much. So there are some online, some of you are in front of me. Okay, that's great. No problem. Everything is flexible nowadays because of COVID-19. I wonder, can you see B? Are you here, B? Can somebody pass it?
Yes, Ajahn.
Can you actually get to see B from Cambodia, where she is now? I mean, can you?
I will contact she. I will.
Okay, ask her to join in because
okay.
I want to know how she's doing with everything.
Okay, Ajahn.
Otherwise, I will be traveling to Phnom Penh. Okay. Okay. Ferdinand de Saussure. We look at his work. And with the name come two things, two concepts, the parallel and the long. So you should understand what parallel is, what a long is. Okay? Long is like grammar. Okay? Parallel is the speech or the language in use. Long is the, grammar, the rules. Okay. Yep, already there. And with the Saussure, we have the two concepts of signifier or signifier and the signifier. Signifier is the form the sign takes. Okay, the form the sign takes. This is what we mean by signifier. And that particular form, it can be, okay, a word, a sound, or a picture. The signify is the mental concept. Is what you have in your head. For example, if I say the word apple, apple, the sound that you can hear is the signifier. Your mental construction of good morning, B, by the way, welcome. The mental construction, what's going on in your head is the signifier. Okay, I think this is the very basic, very fundamental, very basic, but believe me, this is very important and profound. Okay. Now, there are actually four aspects of the sign. You still remember? The first aspect is inseparability. Can you see this? Mental entity, arbitrariness, and difference. And I would like you to look into the concepts, again, to review the second again. So what do we mean by arbitrariness? Arbitrary means the relationship between the signifier, okay, and the meaning or the signifier is somewhat arbitrary. For example, I can say that in Cambodia, in Khmer, B, what do you call fish in Khmer?
Try.
Try, okay, try. Chris, what do you call fish in Chinese? Fish.
鱼
Yes.
鱼
Huh?
鱼
Again. Okay. And in Thai, do you know the Thai word for pla, for fish? Pla. So, the Japanese would say sakana. Sakana. Pra, try, and what's the Chinese again? Sorry. Chu? Something like that. Okay. So the signifiers and the signify, the relationship is arbitrary. Arbitrary means no rule. It's cultural. Okay? There's no logical reason. There's no I repeat. There's no logical reason why the Japanese would call sakana, or the Cambodian people would call it trai, and the Thai people would call it what is it? Pla. Okay, there's no reason. There's no logical reason except that it's arbitrary. Welcome to our session if you just joined. Okay, understand what I mean? So it's arbitrariness means it doesn't have to be that way. Okay, it can be something else. Okay, mental entity, this particular one, means that the signification or the meaning, the manufacturing of meaning is something in your head. It's not in the outside world. Okay. And the concept of difference. difference, or what the French call dethrone. Dethrone means that you need other sides to do it. Okay, for example, when you want to say, if I ask you what a tree is, in order to answer the question, you need other signs, other symbols, signs to do it. Okay, and the first one, inseparability. Here, they cannot be separated. What do we mean by that? It means the signifier and the signified cannot be separated. The name and the meaning must go together. So they are like two sides of the same coin. So there are four aspects of the sides. Inseparability, they cannot be separated. Mental entity is in your head. Arbitrariness, it doesn't have to be that way, it can be something else. And different, you need other sides to define a concept. Understand? Any question before I move on? That's the theory by De Saussure. De Saussure was a Swiss linguist like the French. Here's come Charles Sanders Peirce. His middle name is Sanders, I think. Yeah, Sanders Peirce. Charles Sanders Peirce is American. This is what he looks like. So what happened? He proposed the three modes of sign, namely the referent, representamen, and interpretant. What is a referent? Now you can look at this diagram. Can you see the diagram, right? So in order to understand the theory proposed by Peirce, you need to have some background of the theory, the model, proposed by Saussure. Saussure said that you need two things. You need to think the signifier and the signified. If you fit that conception into Charles Peirce's theory, you will see that the representamen is another term for signifier. It simply is the form the sign takes. And Peirce called this representamen. But Saussure called it signifier. So signifier and representamen are basically the same thing. Interpretant is another term for signify. It's actually this conception made of the sign. Now, what's different? The only difference between Saussurian model and Persian model is the concept of object. Charles Peirce proposed that there should be another entity, and that entity is what he called referent or object. Let me give you an example. If I say water, the signifier or the representative is the sound water. Okay, what in your head now is what we call interpretant or signify. Okay, is the meaning in your head when you hear the word water. But the real thing, this is the bottle of water, you see this? This is water according to Peirce. So this is very important. I just drank the water. Saussure said that there's nothing about the real object. But Peirce said that water is real. Huh? You know what I mean? So this is a bit philosophical, but we can discuss this later. But anyway, you should remember that for Ferdinand de Saussure, the sign model has two factors, signifier and the signifier. But for the Persian model, Charles Sanders Peirce, the model had three factors. Okay, the interpretant, representative, and referent or object. Okay. And the three modes of the sign according to Peirce. I think you all remember this. Okay, the icon, index, and symbols. I think I will not go over this again because you will get bored. You know, an icon, like an index and symbols. So this is an icon because it looks like an object. Okay. Index. You see, this is an index. This sign indicates male. This sign indicates female. You see, it indicates gender. And this is a symbol. This is a symbol for male. This is a symbol for female. I think you all understand. Now, relation between signs is another topic that we've been discussing. Just to make things short for you, we talk about two relations. That is syntagmatic organization and paradigmatic organization. Okay, this is syntagmatic organization. The assumption is that humans, us or we, have the capacity to manipulate or to systematize our environment, including imagination or the signs. Thank you for joining in if you just tuned in. Okay. That's why we have two systems. Here. Signs are systematized to make meaning by humans in society, and we can do it in two ways. Syntagmatic organization, when we organize the rules. For example, have I cat a full stop. You need to make it correct by I have a cat. You see, this is the rule. So this one is not correct. And this one is correct. I think because of the syntax. I hope you understand this. Okay. And the paradigmatic organization is about, replacing size. You have choices to use and you replace it. Yeah? You can say I or they have a cat or a dog. If you change one side, the meaning will change. This is not difficult. And then we talk about code and modality. What's the time now? Before I move to the code and modality, I think you still remember this when I asked you to play on the words. The man, the woman love, something like that. Remember this? The man, the woman loves knows nobodies. You can do it this way. You can change it, right? Nobody. Remember this? Nobody loves the man, the woman no. You can begin the sentence with no, the woman, see? The woman what? Knows the man, nobody loves, something like that. You can see the thing is that when we rearrange the size, the meanings change. The meaning change. Okay? So just to come up, there are two systems, like syntax, syntagmatic and paradigmatic organization. Syntagmatic is about the combination of size. Paradigmatic is about the replacement of size. If you say I love dogs, if you change this and say I love cats, the meaning changes, right? The meaning will change. An equation, by the way, this is very basic. Okay, so far we talk about the meaning, the two models, and the organization of the signs. Now let's look at the word code and modality. Oh, too big. So what is a code? What is a code? A code is a sign that has been socialized. By socialized, I mean agreed upon by the people in the society. Like for example, I can create a code. If you are happy, clap your hand one time. If you are not happy, clap your hand 2 times. You see what I mean? So I can create the code. Okay, happy, not happy. Okay, so I can create any code. Okay, remember any question about the code. I love you. You can clap your hands 3 times to mean I love you. I love you. 4 times if I don't love you. I don't love you. I don't love you. Something like that. You can make agreements to create the code. Okay, understand this? So a code is a sign that has been agreed upon by a cultural group. Sometimes this is arbitrary. One cultural group will say that Thai means fish. Another cultural group will say pla, not char. Another cultural group will say that can be something else. Okay. So this is what are you doing, Nasha? Do you have the earphone? Could you just, okay. And we can have other codes as well, like the dress code. What is a dress code for university student? What would be the size that will tell people that you are Thai university students? T-shirt? Not only the T-shirt, anybody can have a T-shirt, but your logo, right? Your logos. You need to have a logo. A logo will, we can plug it in here. Just by the way, can you say hi to your friend? Jotika, you are here. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, people see your hands. I have 3 students in front of me. Natcha, Jotika, and Ponpipat. Okay. Ponpipat is studying hard. Okay. So we're talking about the dress code. It's nothing but the agreement by the people in the same society. Now this is another term. Now we look at the word code. So code is a sign that has been agreed upon by the people of the society. In other words, a code is a socialized sign You may put it a cultural side if you want. Now let's talk about modalities. In English, modality is actually mean what we call degree of something. Degree. In English, we have learned about modal verbs, modal verbs. If you say must, it's really fixed. If you say may, there's a big difference between may and must. Okay? This is modal verbs. Now in semiotics, when we talk about modality, we talk about whether or not such and such is far or closer to reality. I can give you an example of an icon. You can see me now on the screen. You see my face. In semiotics, you will call this high in modality. Okay, the icon is high in modality because it's very close to reality. If you are here in front of me like Natcha and Jotika and Ponpipat, you will see me in fresh. Okay, because you are on the screen, you will see me as well. Okay. What about this? It's still high, right? Low in modality means it's too far from reality. Okay. Any question so far? Now let's move on to the next topic on text and textuality. Sorry, intertextuality. What is a text? From a semiotic perspective, a text is a story. A story can be said is like a narrative. What is a narrative? A narrative is a set of words. A set of signs and symbols. Oh, symbols. For example, I would say a sentence like, Bill is the best student. This is the text. Or a narrative. You can see is a set of signs. Okay? a text can be an image or a set of words. What do we mean by a images or a set of signs? A set of icons. If you look at a painting, like you go to Mocha, you will see a lot of paintings without text, without letters. But those paintings tell stories, right? So you can tell a story without using words, right? You can use symbols. You can use drawing to tell a story. And you can tell anything without using words. You can use other signs. You can simply use icons and symbols. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? So a text is actually a set of signs and symbols. And I want you to remember this. Any questions so far? Now let's move on to the concept of intertextuality. I have a saying that no text is an island. There are stories within stories. There are texts within the text. There are narratives about narratives. On the internet, you will see a lot of hypertext. Let's get back to our original example here. Blue is the best student. You can actually look into intertextuality. That is blue and student. You see the word student. Student can be thought of as a text within this text. Okay? So the word student is another story within the grand narrative. So let's move on to the next concept of figurative and language and imagery. Figurative language is when you compare side A and side B. A equal B. A is B. Side A is side B. Okay. Side A is side B. It's also about representation. Now you can say that you can use metonym like Beijing. Beijing. If you say Beijing, Beijing means simply China or the Chinese government. Now remember the word metaphor. Metaphor. Metaphor is a direct comparison between size. Like she is a tiger. He is a fox. What does it mean? She is an angel. An angel. You can say that she is an angel. She is kind and beautiful, something like that. Figurative language is the language that you need to figure it out to really understand what it means. Okay. Let's move on to the concept of narrative. As I just mentioned about text, narrative simply means story. So a narrative is a story. Signs, symbols are organized to tell a story. And for example, tell a story. Advertisement. So when we talk about narrative, you think about a structure, a narrative structure. You have the beginning, the middle, and the ending, you know. You also have what we call characters, or what we call prayers. You need also have to have the scenes. Sometimes we call it setting. Setting is about when and where. You also need to have what we call the plot, or the storyline, the point of view, or who is telling the story. Point of view is very important. Okay? Who is telling the story? So when we talk about a narrative, we need to talk about the structure, the characters, the setting, the plot, and the point of view. And many narratives assumes histories. historical realities. So if I say something like you know, chu chok, like student A is a chu chok. Student A is a chu chok. Yeah, you can say that. You know the word chu chok. Nacha, you probably heard the word chu. You know the word chu chok? Chu chok. So it's a folk tale, right? So a chu chok is someone who eats a lot and he killed himself by eating. If you say that, oh, he is a so by the very so is a what we call Jagatak story is the story related to the Buddha. So this is what I mean by narrative. A narrative involves history. So you need a character, right? So you have two characters. Now student A is a chuchok. A chuchok is a greedy person. He's so greedy that he ate up the food and then his stomach exploded. Boom! And he died. So the moral lesson is that you should not eat too much. It's about sharing. If you are eating too much, it's not good for your health. You are killing yourself. We eat to live, not live to eat. An equation, by the way. Are you eating? Anybody eating in front of me? I know some of you are eating. Stop eating. Okay? I know. You're eating. You know the story of Chu Chok. Huh? Are you scared of the story? How many of you are now? Oh, we have 11 students. Not bad. So a narrative, as I just mentioned, you need to have a setting, when and where. There are characters and the plot, the roles, what they say, what they do, as I just told you. This is also very important who tells the story. This is really important. Can you see the screen? Who tells the story? Who is telling the story? Everybody wants to have their say. You want to tell the story. Who? Can it be the government? Can it be the protester? This is not political, but is. Can it be the employer, the student, the teacher? Oh, who is telling the stories control the narrative. I want to repeat. The person or people who tell the story construct the narrative. Are you with me? Are you with me? Any question, by the way? Chris, are you still there? Hello? I don't want to talk to myself. So, Nacha. So, who tells the story? It's really important. In narrative. If you tell the story, you have the ability to control the size, symbols, and meaning. I'm sure you can think about if the story is being told by the police and the story being told by the protester, do you think the story will be the same? I doubt. So there are many narratives. There are many narratives. So who tells the story? This is the most important question. I would say it's $1 million question, by the way. B, are you here? B?
Yes, Ajahn.
Okay, so important. So it's very important to think about who's the guys that tells the story. Yeah. Is it important? If you tell the story, you have the ability to construct the meaning based on your intentionality and the reality that you would like to construct. Reality is constructed by size, and the person behind those size are the history makers. And this is the message that I want you to remember. Okay. Any question, by the way? Now, myth. This is another topic that I think you need to look into. So when we talk about myth, you have to understand that a myth is a kind of narrative. A myth is a story. The story of Jesus Christ, the story of Buddha, among others. So in semiotics, you need to understand this term, the word construction. Deconstruction. Reconstruction. and deconstruction. Reconstruction can be thought of as the word reimagination and the word co-construction. So what we mean by construction of a myth? A myth is constructed for various purposes. When a myth is constructed, and such construction serve several purposes. Nation building, entertainment, and cultural values. You can think about other things. So in semiotics, when we talk about a myth, we talk about a belief system, a story, a narrative, if you want to put it. So in order to understand this particular reality, as I told you, your reality is constructed, hopefully by you, but in reality, there are people who create the narratives for you. I don't want to go into detail, but so reality is mediated by your history. So you do not see things as they are. The concept of masking, shielding, you wear a mask to protect your body. A mask is also blocking your perspective like this. You do not see things as they are. You see things based on the narrative put onto you. You see things through the lens. And what is masking you is your knowledge, your understanding. And where does come from? They come from myths, the stories that you have read, you have been told, the books that you read, the narratives from television. A television show is a narrative. Artworks, that is precisely the reason why you need to expose yourself to as many narratives as you can, because you can, the only way to do that is so that you can deconstruct the construction. You can demystify the grand narrative. because imagination, your reimagination, you need more imagination to save yourself from the ocean of narratives imposed to you, subjugate you, enslave your freedom, your thought. Okay, this is very important. The saddest thing is that you don't understand the construction. You don't understand the construction, and you're happy about it. But I pretty much doubt if you're really happy about it in the cuckoo land. So coming down from the construction is the concept of deconstruction. You need to demystify something. Okay, I want to share with you another slide, by the way, if you don't mind. Where are we now? So I want to share these particular slides. Can you see the slide I'm sharing? Everybody, are you ready for another session? That is the concept of connotation, narrative, and myth. Can you see the screen? We can think of science as cultural products by the society. And actually, each of us, me including, is or can be perceived as a cultural product. And at the same time, you need to develop your ability to produce products. Are you with me? So in semiotics, so to speak, we talk about two kinds of meaning. The first is denotative meaning, and the second, connotative meaning, is in the exam. Now you have to pay attention. Denotative meaning is direct. A tiger is an animal. That's direct. Another meaning is connotation, connotative meaning. It's the meaning plus feeling, plus other, what I would say, adjectives. Like, he's a Thai army general. So the word Thai army general is not just about a job, right? It's not just a job, but it has some connotation. army general is someone who's powerful, has power. So in semiotics, this is a bit theoretical. Connotation arises when denotative relationship between a signifier and its signified is inadequate. It's not enough, in other words, to serve the needs of the cultural group, society. So connotation. So remember what I talked about loaded words, loaded meanings. So I want to highlight this again. Another term which is a bit too difficult at this stage is the concept of signify. Remember the mental entity, the meaning is in your head. The meaning is about your mental entity, and one meaning affects. It has what we call ramification. Ramification. Oh, this is quite difficult for you to understand. Examples. Different connotations can be thought of when you use different signs, like democracy lovers, protester, mobs. They're different, right? It's different. It matters when you call someone, oh, those people are democracy lovers. They are the mob. This is different. Eh? So you say mob has negative connotation, at least in the Thai context. Democracy lover, positive. Mob, negative. Protesters, neutral, somewhere in the middle. So you better use the word protesters sometimes. And I want you to think about the question I'm asking about 20 minutes or so ago. Who is in control of the narrative? Who is telling the story? Is it the police, the government, the protesters, or the university lecturers like me? Understand that, Ponpipat? Who is telling the story? Who is in control of the narrative construction? Who is in control? There's a big difference when you use the word freedom fighters or terrorists. In other words, these causes or narratives construct society. Let me repeat. Narratives or discourses construct society. Now let me talk a little bit about the visual connotation. Visual connotation. Connotation is not limited to words. Connotation is everywhere. This is an example you can see on the screen. So what do you see? That's the first layer. Connotation is at the second layer. The first layer is the door. That is an icon. When you look at the door on the screen, what else do you see? There's beautiful door, luxury, elegance. So here we have two layers of signification or signification. The first layer is the denotative layer, direct. The second is your association, the quality. Is the door of high quality. Elegant. It's not just a door like this. It's elegance. It can cost $1 million. The same can be said. The same can be said about protesting. Same event, the same event can have different narratives depending on who is telling the story. I just mentioned who is in control of the narratives. Who wrote the history? Who wrote the history? In other words, not to mention, who wrote the history? Well, maybe my pronunciation not correct. It's wrote. Who wrote? Who wrote it? In other words, who is in control of the narrative, especially the grand narrative? Oh, this is not in Thailand, by the way. If you see that, one version would be, oh, they are the troublemakers, roadblockers. Another version would be, oh, they are the, democracy lovers, concerned citizens. So it really coming down to the power we have over the ability to tell the story, to manipulate signs. That's the reason why people keep posting something on Facebook. When you post something on your Facebook, when you post a picture, you post something, you are actually creating a narrative. A picture or a painting is a narrative. You are, in other words, you are telling a story. You are a storyteller. If you, and most of you would like to post something nice, something good about you, nobody want to post it. I am hopeless, I am bad, I'm a crook. You want to post, I'm good looking, I'm handsome, I'm pretty, I'm sexy, I'm, good looking. Which is normal, You are actually constructing yourself, You are actually, you're constructing yourself. You're constructing your identity. So I want to return to one. I talked about two names, right? Ferdinando Saussure and Roland Barthes. Roland Barthes said that narrative may be transmitted through oral written language, static moving images like movies, through gestures, organized mixture of all those substances. So narrative can be transmitted to a variety of systems. And you need to understand that. Same thing when you think about your virtual life, your post on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and other social media platforms. What you are doing is, according to Barthes, telling your story. So I just want to say again that a myth is a form of narratives. So there is narrative in myth, legend, fable, fairy tales, novella, novels, history, novel, articles, tragedies, comedy, pictures, paintings, conversation. So narrative exists as all terms in all corners of the earth societies. If you are a Christian, Christianity, the grand narrative for the Christian world is the Bible. Huh? The grand narrative for the Christian world is the Bible. In Thailand, for example, well, this can be a bit dangerous to say anything about Thai politics, but we can think of our constitution as being a narrative. Okay, and I want to stop here. The telling of history is a narrative. Okay, a narrative. That's why I said, who is telling the story? Are you sure that you are telling the story? No, not Cha. Because you know why? Because there are many narratives that you cannot tell. And I think the other students are coming in. What is the time now? How much time do we have? Okay, I will talk about 5 more minutes and then just to wrap it up. I talk about saucer, first, bar. And this is the last person, that another person is Lyotard. Lyotard, Jean-François Lyotard. This is another French scholar. He wrote a book, and one of his classics is The Postmodern Conditions, a Report on Knowledge. According to Lyotard, people no longer believe in the grand narratives. Well, as I just mentioned, this is controversial. You don't have to believe Lyotard. Jean-François Lyotard. You don't have to believe him, but consider his as one of the narratives. Okay? As I just told you, the matter is who is telling the story. And the concept of mixed dualism, binarism, the right and the wrong, black and white, Democrat, Republican, conservativist, progressivist, royalist. These are the myths in making. We are creating the myths, the story that we are telling ourselves. The West and the East, they and us, they are so and so, we are so and so. The thing is that this is just a myth. A myth is the story that is not true. It's a narrative that is not true, but people believe it to be true. Like if you go a Lai Katong, float the Katong on the river, your trouble will go away, you will have a better life, you are, but it's a myth, it's not true. You believe it to be true. Maybe you don't, but people believe it to be true. So you can say binarism. You understand the word binarism? Binarism is when you simplify the complexity of the reality. When you simplify the reality and the complexity and group them according to arbitrary rule, the world sometimes is, crazy. You just put people in. So this is just the meaning of the myth. So the myth is something not true, usually found in ideologies, dominant ideologies. So myth is actually translated to us on various codes. So you need to really understand the construction. You need to deconstruct it and understand that myths are the product of the society. I would say man-made. So what's wrong with myth? What's wrong? What's wrong if you believe that, if you do this, it will be good? There are many good things, advantages and disadvantages concerning myth. On the positive side, myth promotes social cohesion. I mean, you need to have a grand narrative to have a nation, You cannot have a nation without grand narrative. Like, Thailand is the land of smiles. What's wrong with that? Myths foster, the thing is that sometimes myths foster inequalities. And this is the concept of operation by real time, 双方说 real time. When you include something, you automatically exclude other. I don't want to say that by the very measure of meaning making, we are separating entities. Sometimes myths promote, violence and superstition. There's a myth about your dream, a myth about lottery tickets. Myths and superstitions. The point I'm making here is that you need to be able to understand, this is coming to the end of my lecture actually, understand the concepts, the size, man-made, natural, and we systematize them and we call codes, symbols. And symbol usually have not only the direct meaning or denotative meaning, but the connotative meaning as well. And we tell the story. We call this narrative. A myth is a form of narrative. What we need to do with the construction, we need to deconstruct. Deconstruct. In order to reconstruct something. Reconstruction can be done by co-construction. you work with the people in the same society. We try to reimagine something that we are happy about. Above all, is for us to be a true human being, to understand the construction, in order to reorganize the size, to make our life better. That's all I want to say now. So I hope you have learned a lot. You learned something anyway. So whenever you see a narrative or a sign, you have to ask one question. Who benefits? Who is telling the story? Ask two questions. Number one, who is telling the story on the narrative? Number two, who benefits? ใครได้ประโยชน์ ใครเป็นคนเล่าเรื่อง ใครได้ประโยชน์ Two questions. And who benefits? So what? And the last one, so what? So what? Three questions. I add one more. You three questions. Can you see on the screen? Who is telling the story? Who is in control of the narrative? Second question, the first question. Second question, who benefits? ใครได้ประโยชน์ And the third question, so what? แล้วไง So what? And the last thought is that the only thing that exists is the story you are telling yourself. Is it true? You think about it yourself. You don't have to believe me, because all I'm saying is that I have created a lot of stories for you in your head. You have my story, Ajahn story, Ajahn story. What about your story? You need to construct your own story and tell yourself your own story. So what? Why? Because you are not me. You are yourself. You have to understand this. So that's the end.